Rebel Call Channel. Welcome to today's. This is the Rebel Call Channel. Welcome to today's show. There's another story out there circulating about that I need to cover, and that's in regards to the surge in AI putting a strain on the power grid. And again, this is seed planting to prepare you not just for a grid shutdown, but that will be put in place after they decide to demolish and destroy the current infrastructure and the current power grid system. Now, if you look at a couple of the stories out there, they all coincide with one another. So we have the surge in AI putting a strain on the power grid. Now, the first thing any common person should say is, well, if AI is putting a strain on the power grid, maybe we should just shut down AI. Maybe we just should get rid of AI because really it sounds like it could cause more harm than good. That's what common sense would tell us, right? That the need for AI, having it in a day-to-day basis or on a day-to-day basis, does not outweigh the need for civilians to be able to use their electricity as they want to use it, right? But again, they tell us and convince people that AI is more important, AI is more needed, that we should shut our air condition off in the summer and we should turn our heat off in the winter, of course, because of climate change and because it's a strain on the power grid. But we can't do anything with AI. And that's really the first problem that's in place. The fact that civilians are putting up with all this stuff in regards to artificial intelligence taking people's jobs, artificial intelligence really policing us on the internet. And again, that's going to be a part of our day-to-day life. So as we see that story, right, there's two other stories out there that relate to this. The artificial sun is one of them. The artificial sun, as of today, has set a record for time at 100 million degrees in the latest advance for nuclear fusion, right? So you might be saying, what is the artificial sun? If you're new to all this stuff, they are working on rolling out an artificial sun. They're going to tell you that an artificial sun is going to be more beneficial to the new power structure, which will likely be run on quantum computing. And of course, the same way that we receive nutrients and vitamin D, etc., from the sun, the same way plants survive, we need food and everything else from sunlight. The same sun they continue to block out with geoengineering, where every single day we see a blue sky sunny day. The next thing we see is cloud seeding, and we see skies above that have turned into gray. Well, the artificial sun is going to enhance life for people that have nanotechnology inside of them. That's the whole purpose of the artificial sun. People are going to be energized, because in a sense they're going to be human batteries. They're going to be energized off of this artificial sun that's going to charge them. It's literally the opposite of the way life is now, right? Humans benefit from a real sun, okay? They're convincing you that the real sun is detrimental to our health. The real sun is now detrimental to the climate. So they're coming out with the artificial sun, and nobody's asking why China and why these other countries are doing it. And at the same time, Bill Gates and all these people who seem to have their hand in everything bad in the world, including the White House, are talking about the idea of blocking out the sun, and no one's paying attention to why. Because an artificial sun is going to run the new power structure, right, which will likely be a massive quantum computing system, which will also be able to, at the same time, charge you. So let's look at the stories that are out there, because, again, the same way we always see our Sinclair Broadcasting Group, local affiliates, and that's really what you got to keep an eye on. A lot of these local affiliates, I know it's easy to take the stuff in the mainstream, the gaslighting in the mainstream, but when the local affiliates are all pushing the same script locally, it's very important to know, because you'll see how these scripts are all pushed out. They use the same talking points in all of them. And here are some talking points about artificial intelligence and the strain on the national power grid. Take a look.
Welcome back. 5:15 this morning, and in continuing coverage, whether you love it or you hate it, it seems like artificial intelligence software is here to stay. But as the technology continues to evolve, it's having dramatic impacts on the nation's power grid. Fox News' Sean Langell takes a closer look.
With a simple prompt and click, artificial intelligence can generate essays, images, and more in seconds.
AI is here and it's coming at us fast and furious.
But the companies behind these programs need massive data centers to help train their software, and this requires a whole lot of electricity.
You can have ChatGPT, for example, be able to talk to you like a human being. We had to first train it to be able to do that. So that requires a lot of electricity. Making it possible for you to just go on your phone and ask ChatGPT anything that also needs electricity because it has to be on standby 24/7.
Philip Odonkor of the Stevens Institute of Technology says this is straining the national power grid. It also comes at a time when more businesses and households are embracing electric gadgets and moving away from fossil fuels.
And so in buildings, we're now using electricity for heating, we're using electricity for cooking. We also have our vehicles, which are becoming electrified.
To help the power grid manage the growing demand, some tech giants behind AI programs are looking for ways to generate their own electricity.
Thinking about how can we develop smaller nuclear power plants to power our data centers. You can have nuclear operate 24/7 with minimal environmental impacts.
This push for nuclear comes as Odonkor says renewable energies like solar and wind aren't supplying enough power for AI.
The sun doesn't always shine, the wind doesn't always blow. So they're not necessarily the right fix.
He recommends communities invest in infrastructure upgrades to their power grids to prevent system overloads. Sean Langell, Fox News.
Love it or hate it, it seems like artificial intelligence software is here to stay.
But as the technology continues to evolve, it is having dramatic impacts on the nation's power grid.
Sean Langell takes a closer look at how and why, plus efforts to prevent a system overload.
With a simple prompt and click, artificial intelligence can generate essays, images, and more in seconds.
AI is here and it's coming at us fast and furious.
But the companies behind these programs need massive data centers to help train their software, and this requires a whole lot of electricity.
So again, ultimately, we know the grid is going down at some point. We know there's tons of boogeymen, there's tons of narratives out there, and we hear them constantly tell us the need for a new power grid. Now, when you hear stories about the vulnerability of the power grid, that's one of the stories we've heard over the last decade or so, how the power grid is open to an attack from Russia or China, how we've had these fake events where guys have shown up there and shot at the power grid to black out local towns, things like that, things that make no sense. Of course, what they've been trying to do is get you prepared for a grid shutdown, a hacking from China, a hacking from Russia, some PSYOP, which will be our own government shutting it down. So instead of saying, hey, how do we protect our grid? Maybe we should have armed guards at our grid. Maybe we should have all sorts of things in place so our grid can't get attacked, being that our country is so dependent on the power grid, obviously, right? None of us are living like Amish people for the most part, okay? So if they took the grid down, it would pretty much kill off a large majority of our population, which is the goal, really. But instead of focusing on that, right, our tax money goes to, figuring out if men can have babies and all this type of stuff. And they know that they're gaslighting you while telling you at the same time that our power grid is vulnerable. Of course, this is all to let you know that the power grid is eventually going to go. Then on the flip side, they start preparing you for why we need a new power grid, right? While telling us at the same time that this current grid's not going to be able to hold AI. Well, if this current grid is not going to be able to hold artificial intelligence, and we know that they're telling us that AI eventually is going to kill off humanity, that AI is going to be needed for us in their future plans and their future infrastructure, well, how are we going to get there? Well, of course, we're going to get there by having artificial suns and quantum computers, and of course, ultimately our government blacking out the sun or blocking out the sun, maybe even a precursor with the current upcoming eclipse. So some of the articles that are out there in regards to the artificial sun, we'll start with that one, is that scientists in South Korea have announced a new world record for the length of time they've sustained temperatures of 100 million degrees Celsius, 7 times hotter than the sun's core, during a nuclear...
Oh my god. I just won $60,000 for my car crash from this app from my phone. I don't know if you could see it, but it's called Case Connect Compensation Calculator. It's for $60,000, and I'm about to go cash it in.
Core during a nuclear fusion experiment, and what they say is an important step toward this futuristic energy technology, right? So they're going to market this. They're going to sabotage everything that we have, the energy system, so they can bring in this new energy system, which features an artificial sun, which will not benefit humanity. In fact, it'll keep humanity enslaved in a sense. You won't be able to grow food with this artificial sun, but they'll tell you that with all the things that they're creating, the climate problems, etc., that this is how we're going to survive as human beings. And of course, this is to do with the mixing of iron and clay as well, having technology inside of your body that can be, inside of your body that can be run on an artificial sun. So they're pushing this out at the same time, these two stories, and they definitely coincide. AI, the other story, the AI is not only driving stock prices of chip companies to new heights, It's also pushing demand for energy significantly higher than the one anyone out there was anticipating. The 9-year projected growth forecast for North America has essentially doubled from where it stood last year as companies begin construction on AI hosting facilities that make the demands of traditional data centers look minuscule. Last year, the 5-year forecast for Grid Strategies projected growth of 2.6%. That number has since nearly doubled to 4.7%. And planners expect peak demand to grow by 38 gigawatts, okay? So I won't bore you with the technical aspects of it, but it says the U.S. grid is not prepared for significant load growth, okay? So if we're not prepared for it, they're saying, we need a new one. We need a new one. And the only way we're going to get to a new one is by destroying the old one, right? So for people out there that doubt, I get comments all the time. People are like, there's no way they're going to shut the grid down because they have too much control. They're going to get more control with the grid shutdown, okay? Because people, first of all, you want to talk about genocide. You know how many people are going to die from a long period grid shutdown, a 6-month? Say they shut the grid down for a year. People are like, well, they'll lose control over everybody. They'll lose control over people's minds. They'll still be feeding propaganda to people in other ways, right? There'll still be local town council and committees coming in giving you fake narratives with radios of what's really going on, but it's not what's really going on. It'll be the narrative they want you to believe. People will die off, and people will be begging after a year or 6 months for the grid to come back on. And when it comes back on, it'll be a huge rejoicing, a huge celebration. Everybody will be going nuts. And they'll say we have a new power grid structure, of course, but these are the things we need to do in the future. Of course, technology will then need to be inside of you. You'll run off of an artificial sun. Everything will be man-created. And they're doing everything they can on the flip side of that in an inverted reality to destroy everything that God has created. Right? They're destroying our genetic codes. They're destroying natural sun. They already have destroyed natural weather. They manipulate the weather with geoengineering and cloud seeding. So it's literally going to be a flip opposite of the reality that we currently have. And people will fall for it. So for anyone out there that thinks the grid won't go down, I don't know how you could even get to this point to think that it won't. Now, the grid's not going to go down the way that they say. It's going to be all make-believe boogeyman. The government wants to shut the grid down. They want this new infrastructure. They know that you won't go along with it unless they force it on you. And they're going to force it on you by shutting it off. And then you're going to say, fine, give us whatever grid you have. I don't care if it's green energy. I don't care if it's for 6 hours a day. I don't care if the sun is gone and it's a fake sun. Please just give us the life that we used to have or something like it, because we can't live like this anymore. Because no one's prepared to live with the grid off. And again, you want to talk about a great thinning out of society. You know, we talk about the magic potion, the effects it had. This is going to be way worse, believe it or not. Way worse. Because people are not prepared. They don't even have a week's worth of food. They live in an Uber Eats society. Okay? So back to the stories here. Look at these things that are correlating with each other, right? And these stories conveniently are all coming out at the same time as the eclipse. The U.S. surge in artificial intelligence is straining our grid. What are we going to do? We can't keep it up. The artificial sun is progressing along perfectly while the government's telling you that they have ideas of how to block out the sun. And Bill Gates and these big tech companies are working on it as we speak. So block out the sun, bring in artificial sun, right? Shut off the grid. Bring in quantum computing type power grids that are run on artificial intelligence. This is what we're headed towards. It's just a matter of, people out there think that this is going to be something where everyone's going to agree and the government's just going to do it. They're going to force you into it by destroying the one that we have, the current infrastructure that we have, and then forcing and implementing this into our day-to-day lives. So they're telling us again about strains on the power grid. They're telling us this time that it's AI. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? AI is not more important than humans, right? Shouldn't that be the mindset? Or they're already telling us that we need to ration our supply, our power supply, right? Other countries, even in America, we have those running blackouts where they're like, every Friday at 10 o'clock, shut your power off. And everyone's like, I'll do it because I'm a good person. Okay. But we're not going to shut the AI off, right? If AI is causing such a strain, is it more important for humans to shut off their electricity so AI can just continue to run? Of course it is. Of course it is, because humans are going to become second world citizens to artificial intelligence. But the grid itself is going to run on AI, quantum computing, the beast system. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Just wanted to point that out to people if you didn't see the story. God bless all of you, as always, and your families.
Billions of dollars in funding has just been approved for all Americans. If you make less than $50 a year. Listen up. You are now eligible for this $5,800 personal health spending card on the house by the state. They
No,
just
you're not.